Hello, everyone. Welcome to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marcanico. The A Train to Sedona is also the name of a memoir I wrote about my journey to love and compassion. I share my failures, my successes, in the hope that my journey will inspire yours. You can buy a signed copy of the A Train to Sedona on my website at lindamarcanico.com, or an unsigned copy from Barnes& Noble, Amazon, Walmart, and regular bookstores. I have a free gift for you. I call it the cheat sheet for high vibration living. 7 exercises designed to keep your energy bright and in the moment. The one I'm highlighting today is the walking meditation. It's a Thich Nhat Hanh design where if you're in a rural area, you take your shoes off and you let the earth nourish and nourish you tremendously. There's so much power in the earth. Or if you're in an urban area, walk, look at your surroundings, but come back to the center, your present moment. You can download a copy on my website at lindamarcanico.com. I have 2 disclaimers. One is that this broadcast does not establish a professional relationship, and 2, that the opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent Talk Radio New York City. Today, my guest is Sabina Qureshi. Sabina Qureshi has a Bachelor of Science degree in genetics from the University of Alberta and comes from a multicultural academic home that was always filled with classical music, both European and North Indian. Having a lifelong love of music and art, she studied European classical piano, violin, viola, as well as North Indian raga music, sitar, tablas, tempura, and voice. Sabina has lived in Switzerland, Norway, and Spain, as well as Pakistan, and is multilingual. She speaks French, Spanish, Norwegian, and understands some Urdu. She has held many labor jobs and worked as an English and French teacher and translator in Spain and Norway. A longtime student of the Ageless Wisdom Teachings, Sabina co-created and co-hosted a series of webinars aired on YouTube about the ageless wisdom entitled What in the World is Happening from 2021 to 2024. She is interested in helping people understand and navigate the chaotic period our planet is going through now. Sabina, welcome to the A Train to Sedona.
Thank you, Linda. It's a pleasure to be here.
What an impressive resume. The languages you speak and the places you've lived and the musical instruments that you play, extraordinary.
Oh, thank you. But the one thing I don't have is professional credentials. But I was never an academic type, even though I grew up in an academic home. So, yeah, and you have to follow what works for you. Uh, and it may not be what people think you should do or what is being expected of you, but you just have to trust that your sense of things makes sense.
The wisdom is within, really, and it's really up to us to decide uh,
That's right.
as we ask questions of ourselves. So, my first question is, what are the influences in your past that lead you to where you are today?
I would say the underlying thing is curiosity. Even as a child, and I think all of us have experienced this type of thing, if we have an environment that allows us space for this kind of thing. I know that there are childhoods which are full of trauma and don't allow space, but if you have space for this, children are naturally curious about everything, about the universe, about the world around them. And I was very curious, like many, many children, about the vastness of the universe. I remember as a child trying to understand infinity, which of course I couldn't. But these were the questions that I thought about. I did also wonder why people behaved the way they did, but as a child, that wasn't really something I dwelt on because I couldn't fathom it anyway. It was only later when I went through a series of personal crises that I began to have more, I would say, existential questions, questions about who are we? What are we doing here? What is the nature of our lives at a personal level? And that is where really my whole search began to understand myself, not just as my personality, but my fundamental being. So really it was crisis, I'd say. Oh, Linda, you're muted.
Am I
Yes.
heard now?
Yes, you are.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. How helpful were your parents in your as influences in your quest, in your curiosity, in your wonderment of who are we and the nature of the universe?
Well, I would say they played a very interesting role. Both of them were academics and were really, they lived that life, the life of an intellectual, of an academic. And I think for them, the question of who am I was answered in a different way through the lens of their intellectual focus for each of them. My father was a political scientist. My mother was an ethnomusicologist. So in each of their cases, they were answering it differently from each other, but there was an overlap because they were both interested in Southeast Asia. My quest was much more personal, and I was drawn to yoga and meditation. And that was something they were not focused on. I mean, it wasn't an area of interest for them. So, in a way, there was no real interaction around this particular quest.
Mhm.
There were just different spheres of influence. Now, one of the ways in which I feel that I did benefit from their interests was that when I was a child growing up, they had lots of music parties, Indian music parties at
Mm,
home. So I grew up hearing Indian music, classical Indian music. And I think music, by its very nature, is rooted in our connection to the cosmos and to ourselves as spiritual beings. I think this is true for all music of all types across the globe. And so it will, the vibration of music will bring you into that connection within yourself. And so I was lucky to have that happening in my home as a child, also Western classical music. So in that way, that helped me, that nourished me a lot. I would say that was a very nourishing environment to be growing up in.
yes, it's very creative. And I think of music. There's somebody on Twitter who just reveres music. And I think that it's the universal language and the music of the soul. And we communicate like that. What would you say the role of spirituality is in your life?
Well, I would say it plays a fundamental role, but I personally believe it's fundamental to all of us because I think everything is spiritual. We've perhaps ended up in the West, in the Western part of the world, sort of having been taught that spirituality is only the realm of religion or of institutionalized spirituality. But I believe that everyone and everything is spiritual. That is to say that the universe we see around us, all the physical objects, our physical bodies,
Yes.
all of this, these are all expressions of an underlying reality which is not visible, which is spiritual,
Mm,
which is energy. And we do know now that, energy equals matter times the speed of light, right? Squared. So we've learned that from Einstein. And so these kinds of ideas that everything is energy, it doesn't sound so outlandish anymore. It's
mm.
much more acceptable or accepted. And so I would say spirituality is the underlying kind of basis for me in my life. But I do think that that is true for all of us, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. I think that each one of us is in a process of evolution of our consciousness, that this is a fundamental part of simply existing as a human being. I think all of us are souls in incarnation. Our physical body is simply the way that our soul is able to function on the physical plane, because the soul isn't physical. It's not dense physical matter.
Right.
Uh, so it needs a physical body. But given that we each are a soul in incarnation, uh, as a soul, we are going through a process of growth and learning, because the soul is learning what it is to live on the physical plane. The physical plane is not something that is part of the soul's domain. So the soul is learning, and what we think of as ourselves, our human personality, the part of us that we think of as that's me, well, that is the part of us that we're aware of. But there's much more to us that we're not aware of. And
Mm.
as we go through life, we open up more and more of those areas that we haven't been aware of. So our awareness of ourself keeps growing, our understanding of ourself keeps growing. And as that happens, we also begin to understand more and more clearly other people and life itself. So it's a very vast kind of project that we're in, but it's innate to who we are. So you don't have to be thinking about it for it to be happening. It's part of who you are.
Do you have any belief of a personal spiritual aspect of yourself? Or is it all you as part of this large project?
When you say personal, I'm not too sure what you mean.
You in relation to creator,
Do you
source?
mean the idea of God, something like that, or
Yes,
spiritual
yes,
teachers?
yeah.
Yes,
More to
absolutely.
God. I'm speaking more to source and the highest realm that we can imagine.
Okay. Yes, absolutely, because I think there is a source for all of this. It's not random. And I believe every time I look at a plant, I'm again struck by the beauty and the intelligence
Yes.
that has created all of this. And I think we can't help but see that when we look around ourselves at the natural world. So I do believe that there is I would use the word divine, but I think the word divine can also be confusing, because for many of us, it has connotations of something otherworldly, something not part of this world, or
Mm.
something that's in a religion that's kind of boxed away in that category over there, and that it only happens when you go inside a temple or a mosque or a church. So I would say simply there's an intelligence, an underlying intelligence,
Mhm.
and it's not just intelligence, but it's goodness. And I think this is vastly underrated. I think the goodness, it sounds like a very sort of simple word, but I
I
can't.
love the word.
Okay.
I love the word goodness.
Yeah. So I do think there's this intelligence, the creator, the source of everything is the same intelligence and goodness that is in us, or that we are fundamentally.
Mm.
And if you look at all the spiritual teachings and all the religious teachings, they all tell us that we are that same, uh, I'm going to use the word divine again, that we are that same divine
Mm.
being. That intelligence, that goodness is fundamental to who we are. It is who we are. It's simply that we perceive ourselves as being other or separate from it, but that in fact we are that, and we are on a path of return, if you want to call it that. That is, we are growing in awareness to come to understand that we are that. We are not separate from that, although the appearance is that we're separate from it.
We're getting ready for a commercial break. And when we come back, I have a question about whether you pray and meditate. I do know
Okay.
that you meditate, but I don't have a sense of whether you pray. So, listeners, come back and let's find out whether Sabina prays as well as meditates. Join us.
Are you a conscious co creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a purpose-driven individual looking for deeper healing, clarity, and growth? Welcome to the Expansion Room, a transformative space for purpose-driven individuals. I'm Siobhan Larice, host, licensed therapist, and coach. Join me every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A Train to Sedona. I'm Linda Marasanico with my guest, Sabina Qureshi. Sabina, do you pray as well as, I know you meditate, but do you pray?
I do pray, yes. I think I probably don't pray as often as I could because I think prayer is very, very powerful. The action of asking for help or for healing for others, for oneself, I think it's a very powerful thing to do. We are all familiar with the phrase from the New Testament, ask and it shall be given. Knock and the door shall be opened. And I think what this tells us is that on a very fundamental level, it is our choosing to ask for something that has an impact on the fabric of the universe, that creates an opening in which something can come to us. And I understand this as a function of our free will being something that the divine consciousness or the intelligence that created everything must respect or does respect, that the respect of free will is basic or fundamental to how everything works. And that's why we have to ask so that it can be given to us. Otherwise, it would be an imposition, even if it's what we want.
I'm all for prayer. Why are things so chaotic in the world now?
Well, my understanding is that this is because we're going through a change of age. You've heard perhaps of the age of Aquarius, the age of Pisces. Uh, our solar system is moving through a kind of a range of motion, and it's making a giant cycle through the heavens that takes 25,000 years to complete. And during that entire period, it is aligned more or less energetically with each of the 12 constellations for a period of a little over 2,000 years each time. And so right now we're in the moment when we are leaving the energetic relationship with Pisces and entering the energetic relationship with Aquarius. Now, Pisces and Aquarius are constellations, and each constellation, each star emits energy. We're familiar with this. Our very own sun emits energy that we depend on for life.
Mhm.
Now, usually we don't think of the light or the energy that's coming from a star as being spiritual in any way. That is, we just look at it as purely a physical energy. You know, life depends on that light. Plants won't grow without light, that type of thing. However, the teachings that I have come into contact with, the Ageless Wisdom teachings, what they tell us is that everything is conscious and consciousness is everywhere. So that, in fact, just as my physical body is the body of manifestation, if you want to call it that, for a spiritual being, my soul. In the same way, our planet, our Earth, is the physical body or the body of manifestation of a great being like my soul, like your soul, but just more evolved, like an older brother, vaster, with more intelligence. Because if you think of the Earth and all life on it, that is a lot to manage if that was your body. Uh,
Mm.
and then the same, according to this teaching, is true of the sun, of all the planets in our solar system. They are all beings. And the entire solar system at a higher level is also the body of manifestation of a great being. So each constellation is also the body of manifestation of a great being, and each star within that constellation likewise. And each of these stars is emitting spiritual energies of very, very high frequencies, which have an impact on us. And they stimulate us and they stimulate our lives to proceed and to grow in certain directions. So, according to this teaching, during the age of Pisces, the energies that we were receiving from the constellation of Pisces, they were stimulating our individuality. Prior to the age of Pisces, we lived more or less in a kind of herd mentality. There were few people who had real individuality developed. They tended to be those who were kind of bossing everybody else around. But over the last 2,000 years, our individuality became much more developed to the point where now, really, most, if not all of us, have a very highly developed individuality. And we can see this also in the type of institutions we created over the last 2,000 years. Generally, we have institutions in which there's a leader and then the rest. And so this kind of is an indication of a focus on individuality. In the Aquarian age, the age that we're entering now, and the energies that we're now receiving from Aquarius, what is stimulated is synthesis. That means the bringing together of disparate or different, distinct elements to create something new. And so, one way to look at it is that the age of Aquarius is the age of group work, of people coming together and working together for a greater good, for a goal that they share in common. And I think we're seeing this around the world now. We're seeing large numbers of people coming together in all areas to advocate for things they feel are important, activist groups, political groups, all types of groups. And I just want to go back to your original question about the chaos. So the chaos is because when you are changing from one type of energy to another, there is the collapse of what was the dominant energy and the entrance of something new that's just beginning. And so that causes the chaos. It's kind of like mixing oil and water.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while. But you were mentioning also that there are positive events that give us hope.
Absolutely, yes. Now we can
Saying
see
some of them, but perhaps you can say some more about that.
absolutely there are many positive events that can give us hope, but they generally aren't being reported in the mainstream media. And I understand the media's job is to get our attention, and of course, the best way to do that is to tell us something awful, you know.
Mhm.
But the good news that we perhaps aren't seeing in the mainstream media, though there are groups, media groups that are focusing on that as well. It's just they're not mainstream. What we're seeing are large networks of people working to improve their lives and the lives of others. Some very, very simple examples are community gardens in large cities. This is something that has been growing in the last decades, and perhaps it's not reported on, but if you are interested and you read up about this, you'll see people in their own neighborhoods working together with their municipal authorities to find places where they can grow vegetables in their neighborhoods, community gardens, and these foods can then be shared free with people who don't have access to enough fresh fruit or vegetable normally because it's expensive. We also have lots of people working together, again, in groups and networks to bring about uh, justice, equality for those who are in conditions, for example, of modern day slavery. I just read a report about these enormous, I guess you would call them call centers, but they're not call centers in the way we usually think of them. They're call centers where people are held in virtual slavery in Myanmar along the border with Thailand and Cambodia to enact all kinds of scams on the internet and through cold calling. Now, those people are virtually slaves. They're stuck there. They can't leave. But there are organizations, there are networks of people who work to free those people who are
Yes.
held there. All of this kind of action that's going on, if we look at, for example, groups that we're very familiar with, Oxfam, Doctors Without Borders, Reporters Without Borders. There are all kinds of groups working to protect and help not just human beings, but the natural environment. There are an enormous number of groups like this doing amazing things all across the world. But you have to look, you have to search for this news to find it.
There's a lot of grassroots work.
Exactly.
It's starting from the bottom coming up.
That's right. Exactly.
And that's important to note.
Yes.
Well, I want to ask you about the ageless wisdom teachings. We have a few minutes. Would you start to talk about that, and we'll get back to it when we come back from break? What are the ageless wisdom teachings?
It's a body of teachings which has been known for a very long time in the East, but was introduced to the West a few centuries ago by Helena Blavatsky, a Russian writer and mystic. She wrote a number of books. The Secret Doctrine is the most famous of them. Then there were other writers as well after her, Helena Roerich and Alice Bailey, and more recently, Benjamin Creme. Now, what it is a teaching that underlies all of the major religions. It's a teaching that those of us who subscribe to it feel gives us the basis for all of the major religions. It's very, you can sum it all up if you wanted to as the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But it's very vast in terms of explaining our lives here, the evolution of our consciousness, how we are related to life on the rest of the cosmos, sort of thing. So it's an enormous body of teaching, but I found it very valuable, very, I guess I would say exciting, because in my case, it seemed to marry both the scientific approach and the religious approach. It seemed to bridge that gap, bring these things together. And so that in the very beginning got my attention. The other thing that got my attention was that it provided a way of bringing together the different religious traditions in the world. I grew up in a home, my father was from a Muslim background, my mother from a Christian background, so I was familiar with different religions. But this was the first time I'd heard somebody talk about these different religions in a way that said they all are saying the same thing, and they all come from the same source.
Yes, and with love and compassion, we can change things.
Yes.
Love and compassion. Did I tell you that when I was putting together my website, I knew it was going to be spiritual, but I didn't know from what perspective? For 6 months, I went back and forth until I finally said it has to be about love and compassion, because it takes a lot of work to get there. And even if you don't believe in a creator, if you're loving and compassionate, you're spiritual, whether you know it or not. So
That's right.
That's hugely important. So we are going to take a break, and we're going to talk about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom. So listeners, join us after the break and come and hear about these ideas.
On Frank About Health, we're not just talking healthcare. We're managing disruption and innovation. Over the last 4 years, I've taken you from epilepsy and COVID to mental health, caregiving, and now the front lines of healthcare transformation. Stay tuned for a healthier future as we bring on the innovators, professionals, storytellers, and advocates who show you how to own your healthcare every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Ready to serve up success with a splash? Hi, I'm Bruce Kramer, aka the corporate cockroach.
I'm the Renaissance woman, Angie Snowball.
And I'm your strategy doctor, Dr. Navtesh Desange, inviting you to serving up success with a splash.
Join us as we shake things up with real talk and real strategies centered around awareness, action, and accountability.
And yes, there really is a cocktail involved. Please join us and sip your way to success.
Serving up success with a splash, where wisdom meets happy hours. Cheers!
Cheers.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marsanico with my guest, Sabina Qureshi. Sabina, tell us about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom.
Well, according to the Ageless Wisdom teachings, we are not alone. As we go through our process of evolution of consciousness and gain more understanding and more insight, gradually our physical bodies, the very atoms of our physical bodies, are changed into light. And this is a process that keeps going through successive lifetimes. So reincarnation is one of the main teachings of the Ageless Wisdom teachings. And what we learn in that teaching is that reincarnation used to be part of the Christian teaching as well, until it was removed by Emperor Justinius, mostly in order to increase his control over people through fear. Because if you think this is your only life, then it's easier to manipulate you, basically. But the teaching of reincarnation is I think it's very logical. It makes a lot of sense, because if you look at who and what a human being is, if you look at our immense capacity to create and our curiosity, one lifetime really doesn't seem to be enough time.
I totally agree. You're preaching to the choir here.
Right. So in this idea of reincarnation, in every lifetime, we continue to grow.
Yeah.
As we reach the end of one lifetime, whatever we've gained in knowledge, insight, and understanding is kept, so that in the next lifetime we start from the same point. We don't lose any of that. And at the end of the process, our body will be completely transformed into light, and we will no longer have any need of physical sustenance. That is, we will be able to get our nourishment directly from the sun, not through plant life or animal life. And so once you reach that stage, you have complete mastery over all of your bodies, all of yourself. And then you are called a master of wisdom. So the masters of wisdom are simply people like ourselves who are a little farther ahead on this path of the evolution of consciousness. And once you reach that stage, you also don't need to come back and be born again in a physical body, because you've finished sort of the learning that there is to be had here on planet Earth.
I wanted to say, Sabina, that some people say that is the status called ascended, an ascended master.
Yes, I would say that would be a good way to describe it. Yes.
Yes. To be taken out of the repetition of being born again and dying again, being born again and dying again. You are light, and you've arrived.
That's right.
Do more work, by the way.
Well, it's an infinite process, so they continue evolving, or we, that is, once we're at that point, we continue evolving. It never ends. But a master of wisdom can choose to continue this evolution on other planets, in other solar systems. but some of them choose to stay here. And part of what they do by staying here is that they oversee our evolution. They help us from behind the scenes. Because they respect our free will, they can never infringe that free will. So, for example, they can't just suddenly appear to us as a master of wisdom unless that's something that we're ready for or we've asked for, or energetically it's possible. Generally, it won't happen simply because our vibration is so different from theirs. However, they do appear to us sometimes as regular people. So, since they have mastery over time and space and the physical plane, they can change their appearance at will, and they can appear and disappear. I mean, it sounds very science fiction. However, matter and energy are the same thing, right? So
People have been writing about this for a long time. I've heard
that's
it
right.
before. Yeah.
Exactly. So Maitreya is one of the masters of wisdom. He's in a way the leader of that group. He's also a master of wisdom, but he's even more evolved than the main group of the masters of wisdom are. And his role is that he embodies love on a planetary level. And what that means is that the energy of love, he embodies it. That is, all of his being is that energy of love. So what he is to us is he is the Christ. That is to say, because Christ, what is the Christ? The Christ is the incarnation of love. And so the teaching of the Ageless Wisdom teaching says that this being, Maitreya, has been helping us for a very long time. He's one of our most elder brothers, if you want to think of it that way. He was one of the very first to become a master of wisdom. And he is here to help us in this transition from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, and to help each of us in our personal quest to understand ourselves, to become more fully who we are. And he also talks a lot about the conditions in which we live. And he talks a lot about hunger and poverty and the idea of sharing the world's resources in order to have a provision for everybody of their basic needs being met. This is fundamental to the Masters of Wisdom. Why? Because there's no need for people to suffer in a world of plenty. The only reason that happens is because of a problem of distribution, of resources being held back, being controlled for the purposes of profit. And so there's a major shift underway right now in which more and more people are understanding that this is what's happening and that it doesn't need to be so, and that it shouldn't be so. In fact, that there's a moral imperative to change this. And in one of Maitreya's messages, he says, "The time has come to begin the process of change, to transform the life of men in such a way that the God in man shines forth. This, my friends, is not difficult of accomplishment, for within you all sits such a divine being. My task will be to evoke from you that shining light and take you to its source." And so the structures in which we live right now do not permit the shining forth of that divine being within us. If you're stuck in a job that takes all your energy, exhausts you, by the end of the day, then you're rushing home, you are trying to manage your home life, your family life. You don't have time, you don't have any energy left over. You're being squeezed, you know. And this is even worse in many parts of the world, not North America, for example. We're actually living in the relatively privileged part of the world. So these are the things that he is concerned with, is that there has to be a fundamental shift in how the world is organized politically and economically. And perhaps this sounds unusual that a spiritual teacher would talk about these things, but to me it makes a lot of sense, because what is the use of an understanding of ourselves as spiritual beings, as love and compassion, if we don't put that into practice? And that is one of the main changes between the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius. In the age of Pisces, there was a lot of idealism and a lot of devotion to ideals. But in the age of Aquarius, this is going to become practical reality on the ground. And Benjamin Creme talks about the seventh ray. There are seven rays, which are the names for different types of energies that make up everything in
Yes.
the universe, including us, including our bodies. And he says that the seventh ray is becoming more potent in our lives daily, while the sixth ray of idealism is receding. It is being drawn back and
What is
out.
the seventh ray? Just
It
remind us.
is the seventh ray is the ray of ceremonial order, and it has the effect of drawing together people, and it synthesizes. So that's very much in tune with the age of Aquarius,
And what
synthesis.
color is it? Do you
I'm
know?
not sure about colors. No, I'm sorry, I don't know that. But the seventh ray is the most practical of all the rays. It works on the dense physical field,
Mhm.
relating the spiritual ideal to matter. And so that's why you can see people putting these ideas, these beautiful ideas of brotherhood, of justice, people are working to put those into practice to make them real on the ground. And yeah, Linda, you're muted again. You're still muted. There, now you're back.
Okay. Um, does sharing mean, so how are we going to be facilitating this, Sabine? How
Well,
does the
yeah.
team go?
Well, the idea is not that I have to give up my personal savings. Uh, the idea is that at a structural level, internationally, that all of the countries in the world would create an inventory of what they have in excess of their needs,
Mhm.
and what they're not able to, what they don't have to meet their needs. And then all of this will be put together. That is all the different things, the needs and the inventory, and then it'll be redistributed so that where there's an excess, that can be used to fill the needs of a country that can't fill its needs. Um, and apparently there are plans already in existence in the United Nations for exactly this kind of
Oh,
restructuring. Yeah. But it would require countries to no longer see each other as adversaries, to not look upon each other as enemies, but to understand that we all have common cause. We're all trying to live on this planet, and we have to do it together
yes.
because the competition that we're engaged in right now, whether it's economic or political or military, it's very destructive. It's destructive to all life. And so there's a fundamental shift in understanding. It is taking place again from the ground up. The
Yeah.
pe- we, the people, understand this very clearly.
Yeah.
The question is, are the politicians listening? But all great change has always taken place from the ground up. That is all. When I say great change, I mean change for the better.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
the 8-hour working day, Social Security, the weekend. These were things people fought for. And it was from the ground up. It was grassroots.
Yes. What about people who don't believe in God? Now, I'm going to start this question with you because we have to go on break. What about people who don't believe in God?
I think that's that,
Mhm.
there's room for everybody. God is just a name that is given to this vast intelligence that created everything. We don't have to believe in it. I think it's more important to experience. I think blind belief is not useful. I think this is an age in which our minds are coming to the fore, our ability to investigate, to understand. And really, if you look at science, the sciences have revealed to us the nature of the universe and the world. And in fact, now science is revealing more about the nature of reality than religion has done in the last 2,000 years. And what is science revealing? Well, it's revealing the underlying unity of everything in cosmos. We're learning about ecosystems, how everything is related. So all of that is really the area in which our minds are turning now. And
Yes,
it's not really about belief, I think, anymore.
very interesting. You may have noticed the music of our station about the cosmos, that every atom is connected to every atom. It's very appropriate for our conversation.
Perfect. Yes.
We do need to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you some questions about the soul and some of what you're doing in your work. So, listeners, come on back. Join us after the break.
Misalignment within your sales team or with a client stalls deals and creates unnecessary friction for you and the client, resulting in up to 37% lower win rate. If you're in pre-sales, sales management, or sales enablement, and you'd like to increase revenues, win rate, margins, client satisfaction, and stay competitive, this show is for you. Hi, I'm Art Fromm, host of the Making Seamless Sales Show. Please join me live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Linda Marcanico. The A Train to Sedona is a memoir about my journey to love and compassion. It's also the name of my new broadcast on Wednesdays at 12 noon. When we are spiritual, we embrace possibilities and ideas, which strengthen our mind, body, spirit, health, and wisdom. On the A Train to Sedona broadcast, I plan to interview guests who embrace these expansive practices. Join us on Wednesdays at 12 noon on Talk Radio New York City.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marcanico with my guest, Sabina Qureshi. Sabina, I have a question to ask you before I get to the soul.
Okay.
What can we do if we want to help transform the world?
Well, I think the most powerful thing you can do is transmission meditation. It's a group meditation in which we receive these very, very high frequency spiritual energies that are coming to the planet from other star systems. And these energies come into us through our chakras and then flow out of us again. And in the process, their frequency is lowered as they pass through our physical bodies, which naturally are functioning on a lower vibration than the energies themselves. And this meditation is a meditation of service because these energies are very much needed by humanity, by all of us, in order to help us through this transition and to help us grow. And what the Masters of Wisdom do is they help direct these energies, not just through us and through our chakras, but once the energies come out of us, then the masters send them wherever they see that these energies are needed. And once these energies have been lowered in frequency, they can be absorbed by people everywhere. So they are useful then. And so it's a very important work that you do when you do transmission meditation. You assist the Masters of Wisdom in this work that they have of directing these energies. And so I think it's extremely important, very valuable. In addition, it also helps you, the individual practitioner, in your personal growth. And it's very easy to do. You sit on a chair with other people in a room, or nowadays we connect also via Zoom since the pandemic, and you focus on your ajna center, the chakra on your forehead between your eyebrows. And the meditation begins with an invocation called the Great Invocation, which people may be familiar with. It begins by saying, "From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth." And the next stanzas talk about the love within the heart of God, the will of God. And at the end, it says, "Let light and love and power restore the plan on Earth. What that refers to is apparently there is a plan for us, that is the Earth and all life on it. And the plan is simply that we would continue to evolve and grow and become conscious of ourselves as spiritual beings and learn to work together uh, to continue our deepening understanding of ourselves. The fact that nowadays we work in jobs to produce the objects that we need for our lives, for example, in factories or manipulating, money, moving it around. This is not what we're actually meant to be doing. This can all be done by machines, as we're now seeing more and more. We are meant to be free to explore our inner nature, to explore our creativity, to create. That's really the vision for humanity down the road. And we're seeing it beginning.
And is there a link you have on the website?
Yes. Now, should I write it somewhere or?
Did you give it to us?
Yes, I did. I put it in the chat earlier.
Okay.
There
Then
were
it's
three
there
links that I
maybe you
actually.
want to say it right now.
Sure. So there is Share International is the name of the network of volunteers who do this meditation. And so you can go to share-international.org. That's the main Share International site. There's also an American site, share-international.us. And I personally also really like the New Zealand site because there's a lot there in terms of resources, and that's share-international-nz.info. And you will find on the share-international.org site, as well as the share-international.us site, you will find links to connect you with people who are doing transmission meditation so that you can join a group in your area or you can join a group via Zoom. You can, of course, also create your own group. You simply need 3 people. The minimum number is 3 because this meditation is based on the science of triangles. So if you have 3 people, you have a group and you can do this meditation.
Okay. All right. Now we have about 5 minutes. What do you mean by the soul, the word soul?
Well, the soul, according to the ageless wisdom, is actually a reflection on a lower plane of an even higher vibration or frequency being, which is given the name monad. And the monad is actually a spark of the divine. Like, if you had a fire, a spark can fly out of that fire and it can set fire to another piece of wood somewhere else that's not actually physically in the fire. So the idea is that each of us is a spark of the divine. That is, we are bits of God or bits of that divine emanating fire.
I think of us as pieces of the fabric of God, aspects of the fabric of God.
Yes.
And I think of God as being in every electron in our body.
Very well said.
A lot of presence.
That's right. We are made of God. That's right.
Yes, yes. So tell me, what's your next project?
Well, my next project is organizing a kind of a Zoom event in which we talk about the connection between spirituality and activism, because the idea that activism is very connected to spirituality seems important to us, because when you do something to try to improve the world, what is driving you is your soul, because the soul has only one purpose, and that is to serve, to be of service. So everything you do to be of service, whether it's helping your mom or helping friends or fundraising to help people somewhere else or organizing in a group to do a community garden, that's all driven by your soul. That's the energy of your soul expressing itself through you. And so that's something we want to explore, is how activism and spirituality are connected.
So that's a very interesting project. And how can people find you?
Well, go to the links that I already said, and there will be information, especially on the US site, about, for example, this upcoming spirituality and activism event that will be posted there. So you can find it there. And if anybody wants to connect with me personally, I can just give you my email address. That's
Why
probably
don't you do that? Yes.
So it's my name, Sabina, Sabina, and then the letter Q, like for the Queen, no spaces, no dots, at gmail.com. So it's sabinaq@gmail.com. And please drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you.
The email address is simple enough. I want to say that following this broadcast, there is a new show called Beneath the Calm. The host is Jacinta Yang, and she is celebrating men, not excluding women, but allowing men to learn to express themselves. So it follows at 1 o'clock. Sabina, I want to thank you for being on the show today. It was informative. I've learned so much, and I'm again impressed with all of your musical and language influences.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Linda. It was a real pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
So we'll say goodbye for now.
Goodbye for now.